What's happening, man? Welcome to the special broadcast.
Welcome back to Masterpiece Theater.
Oh, this is going to be big.
It is going to be big. How do you want to start in on it?
We just did.
Oh. Well, good. Welcome.
Welcome again. So what do you think of that Alonzo Ball commercial?
Oh, I saw it the other day.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if those other guys that were in the commercial knew it was going to be kind of a spoof, or if they were just giving like heartfelt comments about their dad, and then he did that. So
I don't know, but I think it's going to work. I mean, I think there's a lot of kind of tension and animosity surrounding that whole thing, but now they're making light of it, and he comes out.
Oh yeah, it's always the best thing you do. I mean, remember when D'Angelo Russell, like, everybody hated him because he posted something on Snapchat of another guy in the locker room for the Lakers that had a girlfriend or fiance. Anyway, everybody hated him. It's like he broke all these locker room etiquette and rules, and then he went out and made a commercial and just totally made fun of himself.
Yeah.
And then everybody basically forgot about it and forgave him. They were like, this is like, it's always like the most perfect thing you do is like just make fun of yourself, realize you made a mistake, then everybody else does it, and if you don't make a big deal out of it and get defensive, then usually it goes away.
Right, that's the way to do it, man. You gotta, I mean, because people are just human, right? You know, and I think they're super forgiving, but if you kind of stand on that pedestal and keep harping stuff that you know that, you know what I mean, it's just gonna keep drowning. All right, so I'd first like to thank everybody that supported us on Patreon. We're off to a great start, and you know, it's just gonna be there if you feel like kicking in a couple bucks a month or whatever and helping us build this, whatever it is, podcast empire. But we're gonna, we're just trying to get it going to another level, and every little bit helps.
Did you just wake up? You sound like you're struggling.
No, I've been up since 7, about an hour and a half.
Which is you're hitting like PRs back-to-back days, pretty frequently.
Oh, I know. I'm actually on fire. Yeah, I know. I'm kind of trying to play off you, but you're kind of laying back on me. I think you're just trying to analyze my morning routine.
I am. It's just still weird to be even doing this so early in the morning for you. But no, I'm stoked for this quick little pre-release podcast for our Patreon users to talk about one of my favorite 70.3s, Ironman Muncie 70.3 in middle of nowhere, Muncie, Indiana.
You do love it.
I do love it. You've
talked me into it twice.
Yeah, it is one of my favorite races. I know that it's not very spectator friendly, and it is not like in a city that you want to go travel to. But if you're looking for a very well put on race, one that I would say is if you're not going to find a more PR ready friendly race than this one, a safe race. You just need to look at this one. I mean, it's always great. I love it. I've done it, I think, 3 or 4 times. And I know that I'll end up doing it again. So, you want to get started with our Muncie course race preview?
Sure, man. Let's start with the logistics a little bit. I thought
logistics are tricky. Logistics are a little tricky. I mean, you can either stay in Richmond, in Muncie, in Anderson, or maybe even another like small little county. You know, hotels do fill up very, very quick for this race, especially in Anderson, because there aren't very many good ones. Or if you want to go into Muncie, closer to Ball State, really no matter what, regardless of where you stay, you're looking at probably at least a 25 to 40 minute drive. What I've found and had success with in the past is getting like an Airbnb in Richmond, which is on the other side of the lake of the reservoir where most people stay. And you stayed there with me, 2 years ago, and it's probably just a 20-minute shot coming in on the backside on the run course versus most people coming in from Anderson come in on the bike course. It's usually less traffic, and I've crashed there, I think, 2 or 3 years. and it's nice and quiet. And so yeah, I mean, if you're not looking at staying where everybody else is in Anderson, I would definitely look in the Richmond area, like an Airbnb or a house rental or something like that, or even a hotel, and come in on the backside and stay. But you can anticipate some early morning traffic because it's a 2-lane road, and you're looking at some just waiting. I would tell you a little pro tip is that the earlier you get there, the farther you park away. Just as a heads up, they start you parking at the farthest point away and then work their way forward. And then I would also say there's always a house across the street, sometimes 2 houses, and they will let you. Well, they won't let you. They will charge you, I think $15 or $20 to park your car there race day. And in my opinion, unless you get one of those front row spots, it is every bit worth the dollars.
Yeah.
I mean, it is right by transition because usually no matter where you park, it's still a haul to get to your car. But having it literally right across the street in transition is awesome. I mean, it's great race morning, and then it's in my opinion, it's the best is post race, and you just have to walk right across the street and pack your bags. But so look for those houses. I would definitely get one. You can always, I think, pick up like your pass or ticket to park across the street in that house the day before when you do packet pickup. That's what we did because they will definitely sell out. I mean, they kill it. But I would definitely recommend doing that. And then hey, tell them Crushing Iron sent you.
Yeah, tell them Crushing Iron sent you. And don't they have camping there too?
Yeah, you can pay to. I think it's more expensive to park your camper across the street in one of their yards. But I mean, hey, if you have a camper and you don't want to, and it's a decent place to sleep, this is like best case scenario. I mean, they do have a campground close to there too, but we're talking like literally you're 100 meters from transition if you want to park your camper across the street in their yard.
Yeah. It is messy in the morning, and it's kind of confusing if I remember right, we were kind of nervous the first time about getting lost going over there. Turning the wrong way.
Turning the wrong way, yeah. There's so many different ways, but really, honestly, at that point in the morning, all you do is follow the person with the bike on the back of their car, and you're like, once you get within like 10 to 15 minutes of the race venue, and that's another thing that I love about this race is that you can do bike check-in the morning of, which is like one of my most favorite things on the planet. Instead of like worrying about checking your bike in the previous day and loading it up and letting it sit all night, you can actually take it there race morning if you like.
Can you load in the night before though?
Yeah, you can load in the night before if you want to, but it's not mandatory like it is at a lot of races.
Interesting.
Yep.
See, I prefer that, loading in. I like getting it up.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings. I like to get rid of it, but sometimes I also like to just have the day to do things and mess with it and then take it in the morning, just wheel it in there instead of having to deal with kind of resetting things up, and transition in the morning of.
Yeah. Anything interesting about that transition? No.
Not really. I mean, it's just, it's a big...
They jam them in there.
They do. They jam you in there. So let's get on to race morning.
Okay.
Race morning, it's a Saturday race, which some people like, some people hate. The biggest thing for this race on the race morning is that there's usually like a jabillion swim waves. And so unless you're one of the earliest waves, I recommend definitely taking some extra hydration and nutrition because you're going to be sitting and waiting for a long period of time. Some years it's wetsuit legal, some years it's not. So I would, definitely if it is wetsuit legal, don't put your wetsuit on until the very last minute because usually even if it is wetsuit legal, it's still going to be usually a pretty hot day. So don't sit there in your wetsuit for an hour getting ready to swim, and take extra nutrition if you have to wait. 'Cause I think from start to finish on the swim waves, it's over an hour.
Yeah, it is. I was one of the last ones once, and it was awesome.
Yeah, so you can definitely.
You can kind of watch people come in and.
Yep, you can watch people come in and come out, and used to be a pro race, you could watch the pros come out. So definitely take your time, take additional hydration and nutrition in the mornings, and because especially if you're going to be sitting there for a while. And the swim course is what I would say I wouldn't call it technical, but it is not it's not an easy lake swim. There's usually some kind of I wouldn't call it a chop, but there's usually some kind of flow going in, and then you add almost 3,000 people to it, you're going to get some additional ones. But it's the way the course is shaped, and then the way that you come back in, you're always, no matter what, staring into the sun. So if you're a goggle person that has multiple pairs of goggles, I would definitely recommend the mirrored goggle for this race to reflect the sun. But when you look out, and if you're looking at the course map, you can see that it doesn't go straight out; it kind of goes to the left. And there are kind of two schools of thought here. And the beach is a little bit wider than the course map on the Ironman website gives it credit for. There's actually opportunity here to either line up straight to the right and just swim along the buoys and keep them to your right if that's how you're most comfortable. Or if you want to go real far to the left, you can actually stand and make a straight line to that red turn buoy.
It's basically an inverted triangle.
It is. Yeah, it's an inverted triangle. And so I've done it both ways. A lot of it, I think, depends on how well you are at sighting. If you're a good sighter and swim straight, I think just stationing yourself a little bit to the left and going for that first red buoy is beneficial. If you're not, I think just the best case scenario is to just line up against the buoys and go out that way. And then another thing to consider that I think a lot of people don't think about is look at the waves ahead of you. And if you're a fast swimmer and you've got some what I would call slower waves based on age or gender, that might dictate also where you want to place yourself. Because if you're looking at a ton of congestion when you start, then you may want to do that a little bit to the left and get a little bit out of the congestion that might be in front of you if you're one of those faster swimmers.
Yeah, I've done it both ways. Well, I've tried both times, I think, to swim out to the red buoy. And there's about, what do you think, 8 buoys on the way out? Something like that?
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it says 7 yellows to the red. So yeah, it's about 8 buoys out.
And I just couldn't. I don't know, for whatever reason, I kind of got sucked back into the buoy. I mean, I tried to swim straight out there and got sucked right in about the 4th yellow buoy, so I just stayed on the line. I remember Joanne last year said that she swam right on the buoys, and it was exactly to the distance.
Oh yeah, it's a very well marked course. I mean, these people have been doing this race for 30 years. So once you so if you take that straight out, no matter what you do, and you get to the turn buoy, you're not that far from the other side of the lake. And so they don't have much room for error, because if they go any farther, they're gonna kind of get up on land.
Yeah.
And so once you hit that red turn buoy, no matter what, to take a right, you can always expect a lot of congestion right there. So make sure you take it wide. Don't try to corner it too quick. And then just swim parallel. And this is also where it becomes difficult, especially for your right side breathers. I mean, most people enjoy swimming clockwise. I do, but this is also the time where if you're breathing to the right, you're going to be staring into the sun. So no matter what, and no matter how straight of a swimmer you are, it can kind of be disorienting. So just keep that in mind, and always stay air towards the side of being closer to even inside the buoys, because you want to remember is you don't have to technically always stay inside the yellow buoys. You just have to make sure you go around the red buoys. And so if that looks like a way to go, or you get caught in the yellow, don't worry about having to just get out immediately. You're not going to get DQ'd, but you do have to corner the red buoys. So once you make that turn, it's probably like a 400 or 500 meter straightaway. And then you corner that final red buoy for your way back in, and that's when you notice the sun. I mean, if the sun is up at all, this year and I think 2 years past, you're lucky, because they used to have this older shed where the new concrete rec center kind of thing is, and this old shack used to have like panel siding on the top that was reflective, and it made it like the worst glare possible to stare into. But on your way back in, definitely just take your time to sight as much as possible to make sure you're staying straight. And what I always do is the higher you look, the brighter it's going to be. So I always try to keep my eye level really, really low to the water. And you can basically already see the finish arch. And so that's what I would look for as you sight your way in. I would look for the finish arch. There's a little group of trees to the left and actually a few boats a little bit to the left. And that's where I would start to make don't even look at the buoys. Look at when I'm on my way back
I
in.
looked at the tree. I think.
You can look at the tree. It does look like it's a long way.
It looks like it's a long way, and it looks like it's way left, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not.
From my memory, I mean, that's like I remember checking that out before I got in the water, and there's some trees that there might be like 20 yards left of the finish chute, but it turned out to be a pretty good line, I think.
Yeah, so just make sure you follow those trees, and then if you can see the finishing chute, obviously it's wide, it's lower to the water. Make sure you follow that, and just be patient. Be patient on your way in. It's going to be much less congested than the first way out. You should have some pretty clean water, so stick to that. Keep your eyes lower to the water. Find that finishing chute, and then once you get in the finishing chute, you're going to notice that there's a pretty good little uphill. I think it probably goes for about 100 meters into transition. It is rocky with gravel, and they unfortunately, at least in years past, they only give you this very narrow, small green strip of turf. And so if you're looking to kind of get in and out of transition quick, then you need to be prepared to run on a little bit of that loose gravel to pass people that are walking on that little strip of AstroTurf. I do it. I don't like walking up that hill. It is a pretty good little hill, so if you're anticipating a fast transition, I would kind of recalculate and maybe add a minute, just because once you get out of the water, you drop. They do have wetsuit strippers, thankfully. Let them strip your wetsuit, run up that hill or walk up that hill, either on the AstroTurf strip that they provide or in a little bit of the gravel to the right as you pass people, and then make your way into a very, very long transition to get your bike and then get to the bike out.
Yep. That's it, and then we go. We get on the bike, and
you get on your bike, which is one of the fastest courses I think I've ever done, if not the fastest. And then what you'll notice is as you come out of transition, the first probably 2 to 3 miles is very, I wouldn't say very rough road, but it is the roughest of the roads. I've lost bottles there before coming out of transition, so make sure you're really aware of your bottles, making sure that they're secure. And there are a lot of turns as you get up to kind of going towards, you take that left on the East Windsor and make your way through what will end up being like kind of a small little 2-loop out and back. But this is where I wouldn't say it's hilly, but it's definitely a good time to take it a little bit slower and make sure you're getting fluids down, make sure you don't lose any bottles. And then once you get through that and you hop onto the paved on what they would call it's one of the Highway 35 is what it is. Oh, dude, you're going to burn some rubber. And it is perfectly paved, new asphalt, totally closed to traffic, and you will just fly. Now, what I would tell you, and if you're not comfortable being an aero for 2.5, 3 hours, however long it's going to take you, then you better be comfortable, or you're going to be extra sore the next day with your lower back because you haven't been aero that long. The elevation says on the Ironman site, elevation gain like 1,021, and I think that's quite generous.
Yeah, I only remember one little section where you kind of coming back, you kind of go up a little bit of a slow, long.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll talk about that for sure. But this is one of those courses where the out is a little bit slightly uphill, and the back on those loops are a little bit downhill, and you will fly coming back to make that second loop. And this is one of those races, however, that I would say it's a very few where it's going to be very hard for you to negative split. You may negative split just those specific loops, but what I've always found is that, let's say that my miles per hour average, when I turn off those 2 loops to make my way back into town, where it gets a little bit more bumpy on South Burlington and East Windsor Road, where it is a little shaded, is that because of the amount of turns and because of the condition of the roads, you're going to lose a little bit of time. And I don't say losing time, but if you're a person that goes by a goal of miles per hour, like you do, Mike, if your goal is say 23 miles an hour, I would want to be at probably 23.2, maybe even 23.3 before I hit that last turn to go back in. I mean, it really is. It's a very uneventful bike course, but you will pick up a ton of speed on the way back in. So you've done your first loop. It's a little bit uphill. You make your turn ready, come back down. It's downhill, and you will just be screaming. Definitely be safe. Definitely stay on your left because you'll be passing a lot of people because there's a lot of people on course with spread out waves. And then especially there's be a lot of congestion on that second loop because by that time everybody is on the course. And then you're going to have that little bit of uphill back. And then on the downhill is when you're going to pick up and probably what I would say get to your highest miles per hour average just because of the nature of the course profile. But when you make your way through and you pass the loop point and you start to make your way back into town, is be prepared to lose a few miles per hour. You're not going to gain any, and I would be shocked if you stayed the same just because you've gained so much miles per hour because that descent coming back in on the loop is so fast and you haven't been making literally any turns. When you come back in those last, I would probably say 5 to 7 miles, you're making turns, and B, the rough is a little bit rougher. The road is a little bit rougher, so you're going to lose not time per se, but you are going to drop a little bit in the miles per hour. So be prepared for that. If you're going by watts or heart rate, just stick to those goals. But be prepared to make those extra turns because that's something that people don't honestly think about a lot. Is that on that out and back portion there is 0 turns. And having no turns saves you a crap ton of time. And so while that miles per hour, you're thinking, I'm about to PR. Well, you are going to lose time or miles per hour average on the way back in. You just are. It's just the nature of the course, the roads. And you see a lot of people actually not struggle, but really blow their load on those 2 loop straightaways because they're staring at their average miles per hour and they're staring at their what's going to be their fastest bike split ever and thinking about an overall race PR probably. And then they forget about those last 5 or 6 miles where you got to make turns. And you have a little bit of a hill coming back into town before you take that final turn onto east or coming back onto into transition. And they lose time and they don't have the legs. And so that little bit of a hill actually hurts them.
Mm-hmm. I specifically remember that. I remember coming in that last 5-7 miles and same exact feeling that you just said. And about 3 miles away, I started getting bummed because I was like, man, this is just falling apart on me right now. So, yeah, that's really good advice, I think, because mentally you have to. And I knew it the second time, and it still happened. So
yeah, just mentally know it's going to happen and that it's okay and that it's expected and it's not because you're not doing as great. Just be prepared for it mentally, and then save a little bit in the tank left to know that you have that left, so you don't lose as much time.
Yeah, and I felt like maybe the wind picks up a little around the lake or something too.
It can definitely pick up, and I mean all over the course it can. Because it is flat and is very unprotected, and you can get hit with crosswinds or headwinds, just because of how the course is laid out with 0 protection on huge flat lands. I think you and I didn't really notice it that much the last year we did it, which people talked about. That was just because we spent so much time in the lab, and if it's not blowing 20, then we don't really feel it.
Yeah.
And so I think that was helpful. But yeah, save a little bit of energy, expect that. And then again, coming into transition, you'll see spectators again, and then expect a little bit of a longer transition because it is just because of the length of it. It is really an Ironman full distance size transition because of how many people are there. And as the run course is the make or break on this course. And this is why I would say I wouldn't say it's impossible to negative split both of these bike and run courses, but the way that they're laid out, it's difficult. Just because you're going so fast out on the bike, and then you do have those rough roads and turns on the way back in. The negative split, you might negative split power. I'm not sure if you'll negative split speed. And then on this run course, if anybody told you it was flat, they were lying. because it is rolling, it is relentless, and it is unshaded. And so if you're expecting a hot day, you'll come out for this run to go around the lake. It's a one loop. It's out and back, and it can be insects, mosquitoes, humid, damp. And it's kind of weird, like the minimal tree coverage that it does have, and almost where the shade is like minimal to non-existent, and it also almost works more like a canopy effect and like makes it feel more humid. I'm not sure if that's because we're so close to the water or not, but the out portion, although it's rolling, is considered what I would say downhill until you get to the turnaround, and then the way back is where you see people just absolutely crumble. While I don't think that you'll be looking at much of a negative split time and pace wise, I do think you can look at it from a standpoint of negative splitting where I move within the course.
Yeah, first time I was out there, I thought I was going to blast it because it was supposed to be flat, and then you get out there, and then the second time I did it, first of all, that turnaround seems like it's never going to come. It's, what is it, 7 miles? It's halfway out.
It's half, yeah.
And you're coming back, and you think because there are some nice little downhills on the way out, and you feel pretty good because you come off a flat bike, and if you didn't overcook it, like you said, it's kind of a downhill-y out on the way out for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
But then coming back, you just underestimate those hills coming back, and I don't know. I mean, they're not beasts, but they seem like beasts. And to me, that road has always been, it's not a smooth road, and it's really kind of like, it's not gravelly, but it's sort of that rough pavement stuff. And both times I've run there, I've had just the bottom of my feet get sore for whatever reason, and that's probably just something to do with my shoes. But yeah, it's like when you're coming back, that last 3 miles is kind of torture. Actually, the last 6 miles is torture for me. But
yeah, it can definitely seem like it takes a while. You're fatigued, you're hot, you've been up for a while, and it's the hilliest, hardest part of the course. So when we say pace yourself, don't expect to go out averaging an 8 and come back in negative split coming down to a 750. What I would say a good goal was to go from an 8-minute pace to maybe even an 8:05 or 8:10 would be a win, instead of making it for going from an 8 to an 8:30 or an 8:45. Because if that's the kind of loss you can prevent and help mitigate those factors, then you're going to pass a lot of people, because a lot of people will in fact walk a ton on the way back, because it's a long way. And then once you come out the long straightaway and take a left to come back home, you still have one more little good uphill before you start to hear the crowd. And that's the cool thing, like, in my opinion, is that while it's not a great city to go visit, when you get into the race course, there's really no way to leave, and there's really nowhere else to be but to hang out at the central location, which is the finish line and the expo. And it's always a good finish. I mean, it's a shaded finish. There's always a ton of people there because there's really no other place to go and hang out. So once you kind of hit that last little straightaway and you got about a half mile left, you'll hear the crowd. You'll hear people getting their names, called out, and then you're like, oh man, it's home free. And then once you make it up the top of that hill in the last like quarter of a mile, it's downhill into the grass and a little bit of loose gravel, so be careful. And then you make your home stretch in the straightaway, which is all grass. Coming into the finish line. I mean, it's a good finish line. One of the better ones for 70.3s in terms of how many people are going to be there. And once you're done, go jump in Prairie Creek Reservoir, cool off, shower off, and stuff your face with some good old-fashioned frozen lemonade.
Yeah, no, they have good. Yeah, I feel like they had some good food there, and
they did. They have a good little post-race cookout going on, which is actually pretty nice.
Yeah, exactly. Run right through that finish line in about 100 more yards, and you can be right in the lake, cooling off. But the thing is, there's the run course. Well, the whole course. There's the crowd support for me is like zero. But they have unbelievable aid stations. I mean,
they do.
The way they really handle them is like I was running. Like they got a thing where they have so many people volunteering that they've always got like a train of people like way ahead of the aid station where they're kind of getting your order ahead of time and relaying it back. At least that happened to me several times.
Oh yeah,
Where,
I think there's like two church groups and some Boy Scouts and like a high school or something, and they dominate that run course when it comes to making sure that they got both sides going too, because it's an out and back course.
Yeah. So don't expect the crowds, but the aid stations in their own right are really nice spectator support, and kind of have your. I think at least for me, it was have your in mind what you want. They've got a lot of stuff, so if you're feeling on the way back, you might dig deep for some kind of crazy order, and they might have it waiting for you when you get there. It's pretty cool, It's like sometimes you run through those like at Chattanooga, I was running through, and of course the order and everything like that, but you just don't know what's what, and you get confused and you miss your water or whatever. So at Muncie, they're dialed in. They're really kind of working hard for you.
Yeah, what they make up in spectators on the run course, because it's very lonely on the way back in, they definitely make up for in volunteers at the aid stations.
It's kind of like Chick-fil-A when they send their people way out to the end of the drive-through line and take your order ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like that. So it's always ready.
It is. It's always ready, and you already feel like you're getting helped.
Yeah, and they're smiling.
Nothing wrong with a little bit of smiling.
And then you get back, you finish, and then everything kind of settles down, and then you've got a big decision to make because you're wiped out, and you got a 40-minute drive back to the hotel or wherever you're staying, or you got to hit the road, right?
Yeah, or you stay the night and enjoy the sights and sounds and entertainment of Richmond, Anderson, or Muncie, Indiana.
I know, man. Or you go to the Waskies.
Or you go to the Waskies over in Indianapolis. I would say that this is one of those races just because, again, the nature of where it's located and how difficult it is to get out of there, that a lot of people stick around and linger after that race. And that's why, again, it's beneficial to have that car parked across the street in that person's yard, because you can walk across. I always bring like a change of clothes, and I like to get out of my run shoes as quick as I can, into some shorts, into a t-shirt, into some flip-flops, and because of the location of the race and where it is, the logistics of getting out, and then how spread apart the waves are, people are always finishing like all over the place. So if you have a lot of friends there, it's actually a pretty good place, and with tons of shade when you finish. The only shade on the course basically is when you finish, and there's a lot of people hanging out and talking about the race and sharing their war stories, and talking about what they should have, could have done, and just hanging out and having a good time. And so it is pretty cool to hang out there for a little while, and there's no reason to rush out anyway, because you can't go anywhere, because the bike course is probably more than likely still closed, and then the run out obviously is closed as well. So
you can't leave.
You can't leave for a while. So prepare to enjoy your time afterwards. Don't be in a rush. Soak it in. Cheer on some other competitors coming in, later on in the day. Get some food. Make a few purchases if you want at some of the apparel, and just enjoy yourself and sit down and relax, and don't be in too much of a hurry to get out of Dodge.
Yeah. Well, man, you're turning this into one of my favorite races.
It is. It's one of my favorite ones, man. It definitely, I think, represents more my personality, just because it's not like in some big, huge city. It's a little bit out of the way. It's a little bit quieter of a race, but it's great. It is one of the best ran races that I've ever done. I really don't have any complaints. I mean, I wish they would find a way to condense the swim waves, but that's just nitpicking. They have to. Here's the deal: if they can ever get to a point to where they can condense the waves, it's because not that many people are signing up, and we don't want that. And so the reason they have to do it the way they do it now is because it's such a popular race, and it's such a well put on event. Like, I know, again, like before this race was purchased, it was around for, I think, 20 or 30 years. And so, looking at the waves this year, there's 14 waves. And this is an age group only race. So you're looking at your first wave is at 7 a.m. And then I would have been wave 3 this year. Oh, that's heartbreaking. And then the last wave is at 8:05, which is wave 14 in relays. But what age group are you this year?
I don't know, 50, 54.
Oh, okay. Well, you would have had a decent one too. Then I mean, you're right in the middle of the pack, wave 9. If you do it next year, you'd be bumped down to wave 12, 7:55 start. But again, they only have to have those waves, A, because it's safe, B, because of how kind of narrow the start is, and then just C, because they have a lot of people. I mean, that's really the only nitpick I have for the entire race. Other than that, it's super well run. Always stuff at the aid stations. Lots of court marshals. Perfectly paved asphalt roads with literally no traffic, closed to cars. I mean, give me a break. Like, what else do you want out of a bike course?
Yeah. I'm just glad they don't do rolling start.
Yeah, well, they don't even have close enough room for that. I mean, if they did rolling start, it would be like a battle royale at every single buoy because it'd be so congested because those turns are so tight. But again, it's a great race. If you're doing it this year, you already probably heard good things about it, and if you're thinking about signing up for it, I would definitely put it on your radar for next year. I love Saturday races. A lot of people can't take off Friday for whatever reason, but I love just having that extra day, whether you want to just hang out that night and grill out and hang out with your friends and family and then head back the next day, or you want to go ahead and back and then you have the whole next day to kind of gather yourself and get ready to go back to work. I love Saturday races, so always have, probably always will. So if you're racing here in a couple, probably 3 weeks, I guess, good luck to you. Hope these tips have helped you in your approach to the race and your race planning. And we'll check you next time.
Yeah. If you have any more questions about it, crushingiron@gmail.com. And if you, thanks again to the Patreon supporters. If you like what you hear, this will be public at some point. Please stop by our Patreon page and, give us a couple bucks if you can afford it.
Help us out. Help us help you.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. Also, follow Crushing Iron on Twitter because we were just named one of the top 75 triathlon blogs in the world.
In the world.
In the world. And I noticed that one of the things they have on there is how many social followers, Twitter followers. And we haven't done a great job on Twitter yet, but we're doing good on Facebook. But I like to see if we can build up our Twitter. Follow our private group, Crushing Iron Group, search on Facebook. And other than that...
And follow us on Instagram. I just started an Instagram for us now, too. It's C26_triathlon. So if you're on Instagram, I know a lot of people are. That's why I got on it in the first place. Give us a follow as well.
That would be awesome. Okay.
Follow us and we'll follow you.
Yeah, that's the deal, right?
Yep, that's the deal.
Okay. Good luck at Muncie. Thanks for checking in.
Yeah, talk to you later.
All right, see you, man.